Hello, Erica here, and I'm here today with a review of Head Off and Split by Nikky Finney. This is a collection of poetry by Nikky Finney, who is an American poet, and this collection in particular won the National Book Award in 2011. I've previously reviewed another of her collections, The World is Round, and I will link that video down below so you can check that out if you're interested. I will start off by saying that I absolutely love this collection. I did give it 5 stars, so this is going to be quite the rave of a review. Nikky Finney writes really beautifully about current events and about family, and my breath just left me as I read this collection. I did read these poems out loud to myself, as I tend to do, and I would recommend going that route. I, down below, will link a video of both Nikky Finney's acceptance speech for the National Book Award, because it's one of the best acceptance speeches I've ever heard, ever, and also her reading a poem from this collection called Left, which is about the crisis in New Orleans during the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, and is like really, really heartbreaking. But listening to her read them is so excellent. Unlike our collection, The World is Round, this collection focuses a lot on both current events and historical events and their place in the history of Blacks in this country. So there are poems, like I said, about Hurricane Katrina and how that was handled. There's a poem about Rosa Parks, which is really beautiful. There's a poem about a woman that Nikky Finney saw on TV when they were evacuating Texas during Hurricane Katrina, and Nikky Finney watched a news report of this woman basically refusing to be evacuated, even though the whole rest of the town had been evacuated. That was a really beautiful poem. And so she definitely relates to current events. There's a lot of focus on women, Black women. There is a poem about Condoleezza Rice, which is very interesting. And for that reason, I think if you liked Claudia Rankine's Citizen, that you would really like this. Whereas Claudia Rankine writes prose poetry, though, this is a more traditional verse form. But the kind of underlying anger and the underlying frustration that I found in Citizen certainly applies to this. And, of course, that anger in its many forms, which is completely justifiable, relates to a lot of Black history and a lot of race issues, especially in present-day America. But there are a lot of similar themes. Nikky Finney also, though, writes really, really beautifully about her family in ways that break my heart. Like, she's so fond of her family and has such great memories growing up with her mother and father, and you can really feel that come through in her poems. There's a poem where she's talking about her mother chewing fish for her, the way like a mother bird does for a baby bird, because she wants to feed Nikky the fish, but Nikky was just an infant and she didn't want there to accidentally be bones in the fish. And it's like really beautiful. It's also very gritty. Nikky doesn't shy away from the kind of grittiness of family life. She doesn't shy away from images that might not be entirely, I don't want to say wholesome. They might not be entirely pleasant, like, you know, kind of bodily images. There are images, a lot of images in here of like guts, like fish being deboned. So I really like that element. I like gritty writing, and I like kind of more realistic writing. So that really hit hard. This book also definitely has feminist undertones. Like I said, Nikky Finney, a lot of her poems relate to Black women, but there's also just a poem called The Clitoris, and I like that she's so passionate about her femininity, but also her race and her family. Like, what really hits home about this collection, even if you can't necessarily relate on the level of being a Black woman who was raised in the South in, you know, the 50s, you just feel her passion come through so wholly. And I feel like I know her almost. I feel like we've been friends for a long time and that I know her on a very deep level because she's so passionate and she just pours that onto the page. As I usually do when I review poetry, I would like to read you a little bit of a poem that I'm particularly fond of. The name of this poem is Red Velvet, and it is the poem that is in memory of Rosa Parks, or is about Rosa Parks and the stand that she took that day on that bus in Montgomery. So let me read you things. 2. A seamstress brings fabric and thread, collars and hems, buttonholes together. She is one who knows her way around velvet. Arching herself over a river of cloth, she feels for the bias, but doesn't cut, not until the straight pins are in place, marking everything. In time, everything will come together. 9 months after, December 1st, 1955, Claudette Colvin, 15, arrested for keeping her seat. Before that, Mary Louise Smith. The time to act, held by 2 pins. 3. The Montgomery seamstress waits and waits for the Cleveland Avenue bus. She climbs aboard, row 5. The 5th row is the first row of the colored section. The bus driver, who tried to put her off that day, had put her off 12 years before. But 12 years before, she was only 28, still a child to the heavy work of resistance. By 42, you have pieced and sewn many things together in segregated Alabama. You have heard nigger gal more times than you can stitch your manners down. You have smelled fear cut through the air like sulfur iron from the paper mills. The pants, shirts, and socks that you have darned perfectly routinely walk perfectly routinely by you. Afternoon, how do? Those moving along so snug in your well-made, well-sewn clothes spit routinely, narrowly missing your perfectly pressed sleeve. By 42, your biases are flat, your seams are interlocked, your patience with fools razor thin. By 42, your heart is heavy with slavery, lynching, and the lessons of being good. You have heard 7,844 Sunday sermons on how God made every woman in his image. You do a lot of thinking with a thimble on your thumb. You have hemmed 8,230 skirts for nice, well-meaning white women in Montgomery. You have let the hem out of 18,809 pant legs for growing white boys. You have pricked your finger 45,203 times. Held your peace.